everyone, and thanks for joining us for another episode with our World of Stories series. So this summer we are celebrating stories as we tell them here in the United States and as they're told in different countries and cultures around the world. So pretty cool stuff. So these fairy tales and folk tales are actually all categorized in different themes according to the Arne Thompson-Uther Index, or as it is most recently known, the Arne Thompson-Uther Tale Type Index, which was started in 2004. So it's kind of gone through different iterations throughout history, but this is what we're working with today, an index categorizing different fairy tales and folk tales from around the world according to different elements like uneven racers or magical shoes. Today, our story is actually about people who are very small and come from unusual places. So our story today from the US is Thumbelina. Now, if you're not familiar with Thumbelina, it goes something like this. Right, there is an old woman who lives by herself and she loves her garden. So every day she goes out and takes care of her flowers, and one day she meets a kind witch who's traveling through. They become friends, sharing the love of the garden together, and the witch gives the old woman a special seed, which she says to take care of as though it were her child. So the old woman does. She plants the seed and takes care of it until one day a beautiful flower blossom or bulb comes up. The old woman is so excited that she kisses the bulb or the flower, and when it opens, a child is inside, a little girl that's no taller than the woman's thumb. So she calls her Thumbelina. So Thumbelina is the best daughter that the woman could ask for. She's no longer lonely, and Thumbelina sings the woman to sleep every night. But unfortunately, a mother frog hears Thumbelina's beautiful song and kidnaps her one night while she's sleeping to take to her frog's son for him to marry. So Thumbelina's not so excited to marry the frog's son, and so when the frog mother puts her on a lily pad to wait for her son to come marry Thumbelina, two fish hear Thumbelina crying and they chew through the root of the lily pad and she floats downstream, where she's then found by a mouse who takes her in as the weather gets colder in winter. But unfortunately, the mouse also wants Thumbelina to marry her friend, the mole, who has a big burrow next door. So the mole falls in love with Thumbelina when he also hears her beautiful singing. And Thumbelina is sad once again, but in one of the tunnels, she finds a bird that the mouse and the mole say is just dead. He died in the winter. But Thumbelina discovers that the bird isn't dead, and she nurses him back to health, and then he flies Thumbelina away till they come to a beautiful meadow filled with flowers where Thumbelina meets the fairy prince and they get married. And then Thumbelina is so happy that she sings her song once again that she sang for her mother every night, and the bird hears the song and then flies back to her mother and sings Thumbelina's song, or whistles Thumbelina's song to her mother, and her mother knows that Thumbelina is happy and safe. And so the end of the story goes that every time Thumbelina's mother hears the bird's song, she knows that her daughter is happy and safe. So pretty sweet ending. Today, we have another story of a child that comes from kind of a strange place. And we actually read this one a while ago while celebrating Asian Pacific Heritage Month, but it's such a fun story and such a classic tale from this country that we wanted to read it again. So today, let's travel to Japan with the story Momotaro. So let's get ready. Ich, ni, san. Iko! Let's go. So we have Momotaro, the peach boy from Japan. Once upon a time in Japan, there lived in the country an old man and his wife. They were very lonely because they had no children. One day, the old man went into the mountains to cut firewood, and his wife went to the river to wash clothes. No sooner had the old woman begun her washing than she was very surprised to see a big peach floating down the river. It was a huge peach, the biggest she had ever seen. and she pulled the peach out of the river and took it home to give her husband for supper. Late in the afternoon, the old man came home, and the old woman said to him, "Look what a wonderful peach I found for your supper." The old man said it was truly a beautiful peach. He was so hungry that he said, "Let's divide it and eat it." So the old woman brought a big knife from her kitchen and was getting ready to cut the peach in half. But just then, there was a sound of a human voice from inside the peach. "Wait, don't cut me," said the voice. Suddenly, the peach split open and a beautiful baby boy jumped out. The old man and his wife were very happy, and they took the baby to be their son. Since he was born from a peach, they named him Momotaro, which means peach boy. They loved Momotaro very much and raised him well. When Momotaro was about 15 years old, he went to his father and said, "Father, you have always been very kind to me. Now I am a big boy, and I must do something to help my country." In a different part of the sea, there is an island named Ogre Island. Many wicked ogres do bad things like carrying people away and stealing their things. So I'm going to go to Ogre Island and fight them and bring back treasure. Please let me do this. The old man was surprised to hear this, but he was also very proud of Momotaro for wanting to help other people. So he and the old woman helped Momotaro get ready for his journey to Ogre Island. The old man gave him a sword and armor, and the old woman fixed him dumplings for lunch. Then Momotaro began his journey. He walked toward the sea. As he went, he met a spotted dog. The dog growled at Momotaro and was about to bite him, but then Momotaro gave him one of his dumplings. He told the spotted dog that he was going to fight the ogres on Ogre Island, so the dog said he'd come along too. Momotaro and the spotted dog kept on walking, and soon they met a monkey. The spotted dog and the monkey started to fight, but Momotaro explained to the monkey that he and the spotted dog were going to fight the ogres on Ogre Island. Then the monkey asked if he could go with them. So Momotaro gave the monkey a dumpling and brought him along. Momotaro and the spotted dog and the monkey kept on walking. Suddenly, they met a pheasant. The spotted dog and the monkey and the pheasant were about to start fighting. But when the pheasant heard that Momotaro was going to fight the ogres on Ogre Island, he asked if he could go too. Momotaro gave the pheasant a dumpling and brought him along. So with Momotaro as their general, the spotted dog, the monkey, and the pheasant, who usually hated each other, all became friends and followed Momotaro. They walked a long, long way and finally reached the sea. At the edge of the sea, Momotaro built a boat. They all got in the boat and started across the sea toward Ogre Island. When they came within sight of the island, they could see that the ogres had a very strong fort there, and there were many ogres. There were many different colors of ogre: red, blue, and green. First, the pheasant flew over the walls of the fort and began to peck at the ogres' heads. They all tried to hit the pheasants with their clubs, but he was quick and dodged all their blows. And while the ogres weren't looking, the monkey slipped up and opened the gate of the fort. Then Momotaro and the spotted dog rushed into the fort and started fighting the ogres too. I guess it's good they all wanted to fight, right? It was a huge battle. The pheasant pecked at the heads and the eyes of the wicked ogres, and the monkey clawed them, and the spotted dog bit them, and Momotaro cut them with his sword. At last, the ogres were defeated. They all bowed down low before Momotaro and promised never to be wicked again. Then they brought Momotaro all the treasure they had. It was a great treasure, with gold and silver and colored jewels. There was an invisible coat and hat, a hammer that made a piece of gold every time you hit the ground, and many other wonderful things. Momotaro and his 3 friends carried all this in their boat back to their own land. Then they made a cart and put all the treasure in the cart and pulled it all the way to Momotaro's house. How surprised the old man and his wife were when they saw their son come home safely. With all the treasure Momotaro brought, they were very rich, and they lived happily ever after. So that's the story of Momotaro, the peach boy, and of course the story of Thumbelina, the girl as big as your thumb. So those stories, of course, they had a lot of differences. Really, they were mostly different, but they had maybe a couple similarities. So this week we're asking you for your secret summer reading code to again share in the comments or with me at afrancis@ahmfl.org something that you noticed that was different or something you noticed that was the same. So that's kind of a challenge, coming up with what was the same. But share it with us to get that secret code, and we'll see you next time for our very last Our World of Stories as we prepare for the end of our summer reading program. So thanks for joining us today. See you next time.